guys, and welcome back to my channel. So this is my third video of the day, although I will probably upload this one later in the week. I am now going to do my first art journal page for my A to Z or hashtag A to Z Zartjournal2020. Now unfortunately a little bit of water got onto this strip before I'd managed to put the sealant on it. So I was going to print another one off and thought it'd be fine, I'll just print another one off and layer it over the top, and then my printer's packed up. So yeah, that's a job for when Instant Ink sort out the, I think it's the cartridge, the Instant Ink cartridge. I'm hoping that's what it is. So I've sent them a message, so hopefully they'll get back to me and I'll be able to sort that out. In the meantime, I'm going to do the first page. So obviously the first page is A. And these are all the words that, can't even fit them all on the screen. These are all the words that got suggested. So I put them all in a list. I will put this list under this video in the description box, so you can see all of the words together in one place. And I asked my daughter to pick a number from 1 to 27, and she picked 12, which was annoyed. And I just sat there and I looked at this great big list and thought, do you know, there were some words on there that would have just come really easy, really, but annoyed, I really had to go and think about that one. But I did, and I came up with an idea. So we're going to give it a go and see if we can create what's in my head. So I have got a piece of, this is just a cheap watercolour card. I've made myself a template, and this is what size the pages need to be for my art journal. And then I've punched some holes for where the holes need to be as well, which I am just going to pencil in just so that I'm aware, just very lightly, just so that I'm aware of where they are whilst I'm working on it. Okay, so I found a phrase which made me chuckle, and I'm going to put it on at the end, so it'll all make sense at the end. So to start with, I have just die cut some hill shapes just from some scraps of cardstock, and I'm actually going to use them as stencils. So I'm going to start with some Twisted Citron Distress Ink and just one of these makeup brushes. And I'm going to start about there, I think. Yeah, about there. Don't want it there. Don't want it there. Oh, I don't know. So I've got all different shapes, obviously. It doesn't really matter, actually, because it's... Right, I think I'm going to start it about there. And obviously I am starting to create some hillsides using this as a stencil. So I'm just building it up quite lightly because it's, you know, you can put a bit more on, but once it's on you can't take it off. So I'm also going to go in with just a little bit of this crushed olive, but just sort of just on the edge there. There we go. And then like that. Then we'll go with some of this one maybe. And all I'm doing is just sort of building up that suggestion of hills and things in the background. So I want this one about there, I think. So I might have to layer this one in like this, and then I'll sort of move my stencil along in a minute and just finish it off, or just put put another piece there or something like that. And again, I am just going to go in with a little bit darker as well. Like that. Faffing and not talking, which isn't great. I'm thinking, and that takes a lot of effort for me. Thinking of where I want it to go. So I've come in again with a different green. So I've got various different greens off to the side, or different distress inks, in the hope that it'll just give it a bit of a different different feel. Just darken some of this up a little bit now. And then we'll go in with that one there. That. Okay, it's not looking too horrific. So I think what I'm then going to do as well is take some of this twisted citron and then just bring some colour into the bottom down here. Like this. A bit more up there. I don't want to take away all the white space. I do want to keep some of that lighter, because that's what sort of makes it look like the hills. Move that lamp a bit. Oh. Just can't win with the lighting in this room at night. Never mind. Right, so I've got the suggestion of some hillsides in the background there, and that'll do for now. I'll probably come in and darken that up again in a little bit. But I also want to put some texture on them, and I want to put some sky in. So I might put the sky in first. So I've got some tumbled glass. So I'm just going to spin this round. And I'm just going to start bringing some tumbled glass ink. Again, it's better to go slow and build it up rather than sort of chuck it all on and then you can't move it once it's there. I have also got a little bit of Mermaid Lagoon, but this is obviously quite a bit brighter, so I am just going to make sure that I've tapped plenty of it off, and I'm going to be really sort of light with that. And I want it to look quite patchy because I want it to look sort of cloudy. That's actually more vivid in person than it is coming up on the camera. Okay, so I'm going to keep those out. So I've got this set of stamps. It's a Do Crafts set, and it's just I'm not sure it's got a, oh, it's the geometric neon capsule set. I got it in a grab bag last year before. I didn't think I'd use it actually when I got it, but it's really good for putting sort of small bits of texture here and there. So I'm just going to select some of the stamps that have got, you know, spots and dots and dashes and one thing and another, and I'm going to use them to add in bits of texture here and there. So and I'm going to use a few different colours of ink. All the stamps are falling off the sheet. Go for, so that's sort of tone on tone. And as you can see, I'm not being, you know, I'm not worrying about whether the stamp's got enough ink on it. It'd help if I pulled it down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'm not worrying about whether the stamp's got, you know, full coverage of ink, because it's that's not the look I'm going for. I am just wanting texture in the background. So I've got some shabby shutters. So we'll bring a bit of this in. There we go. Okay, and then the same up on the top here. I want a bit of colour up there. So starting to get in a mess already. So all the stamps are falling off the stamp sheet, off the contact sheet. Okay, so I'm starting out with the tumble glass, which is obviously the main sort of colour of that sky. I can't talk tonight. It is starting to get a bit later. What other ones have we got? That's quite cool, that chevron-y one. We'll go for some of that too. So this one, I'm stamping it off first so that I'm not getting the bright, because this is the Mermaid Lagoon, and obviously I don't want too much of that. Okay, so now I want my water spritzer and a piece of kitchen roll, if I can reach it, and I'm just going to give it a quick spritz. And then pick some of that ink up. So where that one's gone a little bit dark, I'm just going to lift a little bit of it. There we go. There we go. So I'll just pause the video because I'm going to dry. Okay, so that's dry. And I'm now going to get out, I've got some Oxide in squeezed lemonade. So I'm just going to grab a little makeup applicator thing. And I'm going to do a little sunshine about there. That's about right. And one of these circle things might look quite cool. What colour could I use for the... Let's see which one's darker. I think the mustard seed's probably going to be better. So, where did I just put that stamp block? Honestly, I've been stuff out for 5 minutes and everything's a mess already. Can't be trusted. So, I've just got out some mustard seed in the Oxide as well. And I'm just going to stamp one of these circles over the top. That's my sunshine. Okay. So then I've got some stamp sets. I've got loads of different ones. I've got this one, which is like a wintry one. I'm going to use a couple of bits off of that. I've got this stamp set. These are all ones that came free in magazines. I used to get Creative Stamping. I used to subscribe to it, so I got it every month. So I've got absolutely tons of these stamp sets. Sorry about the rustling. Should have taken things out of the packets really before I started, but I didn't. So this one of the stamp sets has got this stamp of clouds, which I thought would be good. I've just sort of grabbed out a load of different stamp sets that have got different like scene building elements to them. I think I will go with a Days On ink. There we go, because it should then be waterproof. So there's some clouds. I've got these birds as well, which I thought might be quite cool. I'll just put a little bit of cloud up there, like that. Just grab a wet wipe. Try and get some of the ink off of that stump. Pop that one over to one side. And then I've got my birds. So now then, do these birds have a right way up and a wrong way up? Don't think it massively matters. Don't think it matters. Just pop this underneath so that if I stamp off, it goes on the paper. And there we go. So we've got some birds flying up in the sky. Awesome. Right, then the other stamp set that I dug out was this. It's like trees, if you can really sort of see that. You can see it a bit better there. It was a Christmassy set that I got. Oh, again, it came free in a magazine, and I got it probably 2 years ago, maybe slightly more than that. And I've chopped it up, like chopped bits out of it, because I wanted it to be in a specific shape. Because what I want to do is create like an archway of trees. So the stamping on this may not be perfect because I'm not using my stamp press. I am just doing it, you know, the old-fashioned way with acrylic blocks. But sometimes I think it's nice just to, you know, almost have a bit of freedom. So I'm using another Stays On. This is a Timber Brown Stays On. and I'm going to stamp these towards the sort of foreground of the image. That will do me. Lovely. And then I've got the little ones that I've been chopped off that I can use to stamp around. So as you can see, what I'm sort of doing is creating a little scene. Swap out to the other one. I'll just put the cloth, give that stamp a bit of a wipe. Now, I do want to create a pathway. So before I stamp any more trees in, I think that's the thing that I'm going to do next. I think I'm going to try and... Now, my drawing skills are almost zero, but give it my best shot. So, the idea was that we'd have a pathway going up through these trees. Like this. And maybe something like that. So it's going off and wandering up and off into the distance there. So now that I know sort of roughly where my path is going to be, I can stamp in a few more trees here and there. So like that. And then maybe one there like that. That'll do. Okay. So I'm now going to paint my path, but because I've used ink underneath it, I think I'll probably have a go with putting it on with some acrylic paint. That'll do. Buff titanium. First creamy sort of colour that come to hand. Oops. Okay. So I'm just going to lay in a bit of this. And obviously the beauty of acrylic paint is you can do as many layers as you want, and it'll just sort of build up over the previous layer. So although some of the stamping is still visible under this, I'm sure when I've layered it up a few times, I'm sure it'll disappear. If not, I'll think of something else. Okay, so I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch me paint a path in, but that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to paint a pathway up into the background. Okay, So I've painted that in, but it obviously looks a bit sort of flat. So I'm going to try and put a bit more sort of texture in that into it. And all I'm going to do is, with a tiny paintbrush and my Distress inks, I'm just going to put little dots and flecks and things all the way. And my hope is that if I do enough of them in all different colours, that I might get that sort of illusion of, I don't know, like a gravel type path. But I think it's going to take me quite a long time. So I'm probably not going to have time to finish this tonight. So what I'm going to do is, with my Distress inks, I'm just going to go and put as many sort of dots and dabs and things as I can all over this path. And once I've sort of used up this colour, I will find another colour. And then equally, I've got a fine tip black marker, so like a drawing type pen. So I'll probably do some dots with that. I've also got the white Sakura jelly roll pen. So some white dots on. Just anything to just sort of break it up a little bit and make it look more textured, I think. Might end up looking rubbish. I might not end up showing you this page. I'm not loving it so far. But, you know. Okay, so that's my gravel path in place. And I think I want to put some leaves on my trees. So I'm going to do that again with Distress inks. I'm just going to use them as a paint. So I'm going to start off with some forest moss. I'm just going to put a bit on this acrylic block here, and then just using paintbrush, just start painting in a few bits and pieces. Again, it's just it's the impression of leaves, so it's, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So all I'm going to do is just put colour just like this, just dabbing it on with my paintbrush, and starting to use the branches to create the shape of my tree. And I'm just going to dab the ink here and there like this. You can see it's starting to build up the shape of the tree. And then I'm going to bring in another colour. So this one is crushed olive. And I'm going to start bringing... got my water on the wrong side there, really. Move it over to here. And start bringing in a bit of that in amongst it all. And the different tones will just help it to look a little bit more sort of realistic and a little bit less flat. As I say, I'm not actually an artist. I am a crafter, so it's good enough for me. And then I've got a bit of peeled paint, so I shall bring a bit of that in. What else have I got? one of these. This is Evergreen Bough. So this is a much greener, sort of more vivid green, which is nice to have a little bit of that mixed in. I am mixing it a little bit with the forest moss just to knock it back just a little bit. I do like the vividness of that green, but it might just be a little bit too much on its own. So by just sort of washing in just a little bit of the other greens that are on my makeshift palette, it just knocks that colour back just a little bit. It's still there, and you're still getting a bit of that nice bright fresh green in there, but it's not quite as vibrant as if I just left it on its own. Okay, so I'm going to do this for all of the leaves, for all of the trees. I'm going to go and put some leaves on all of my trees, and then I will come back. Okay, so I have put some leaves on all of the trees, and as you can see I've put some shadowing just underneath them. Again, I've just used the Distress inks. And then I want to just take some of the colour out of these clouds, because obviously I've just stamped over the top of the inked background. But because I stamped with a StazOn and it's waterproof, I can just pop some water just into those cloud areas like this, just using a paintbrush, and it's just clean fresh water. I'll just let that sit for a moment, and then a bit more here. And then with my piece of kitchen roll, I can lift the blue Distress ink that's inside it. So it leaves me with really nice white clouds without having to faff about trying to mask them off. I just lift that colour back out the clouds like that. And there we go, I've got some really nice white clouds on my blue sky. So now in one of the stamp sets, and I'm trying to think which one it is, there is a bit of grass, which is really useful because rather than having to go and draw all of the bits of grass in here and there, because I want to give it the impression that there is grass tufts. Oops, I just knocked my camera again, and I've just dropped the stamp on the floor. Brilliant. There it is. Okay, so just a little stamp of grass, and I'm just going to, I think with, if I just done with that stamp now. It was on there, and no it's not. Bear with. Right, I found it. So I'm going to ink it up with just peeled paint, Distress ink, and I'm just going to, might be better not on the block actually. I'm going to put some grass here and there. And again, I don't want it to be too dark because I don't want it to sort of overshadow anything else. You know, particularly wanting a bit of tufts of grass around the bottom of the trees. What? And anything I don't love, that didn't quite go where I wanted it to, I can just go and put a little bit of water and just I can see the brush that I was using for my water. Where is it? There. Just soften it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So, I'm liking that. Well, I'm liking it as much as I'm going to like it. Then I want to put, I wanted some people walking, but that's not a stamp that I have. Well, not in the size that I would need it for. So I found a stamp set that had got people playing in the snow, sledging. And again, I cut it. So it's two people that are pulling a sled is the actual stamp. But I'm going to use it as people walking in my scene. You know, at the end of the day, it's only an art journal page. So it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And it just gives the impression, which is what I want. So there we go. And all I'm going to do, because I've done it with distress ink, I'm just going to sort of fill in anywhere where it's a bit patchy. And where I've got, just down the bottom here, because it's actually somebody on skis, if I just put a little bit of the distress ink in, it fills it in, and they look a bit more like boots, and they look like people with their walking poles or whatever. That's what it looks like in my world anyway, folks. And I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so the other thing that I think I might just pop in is some flowers just in the foreground. So for that I am going to use some oxides, just because they are a bit more opaque. And I've got this, like, it's a bit like a hollyhocks type stamp, but I'm just going to ink up the top of it, and I'm just going to put a few little bits here and there. And then go in again with a slightly darker one, just like this. I quite like this sort of sketchy look on that. Just put those up a little bit higher. And then again, if I get my grass stamp and get some forest moss, so it's a bit darker, and just put that sort of at the bottom, like that, and like that. Okay, might put some more in, I'm not sure. What I think I'm going to do first is have a look at where my sentiment's going to go. So just realised I've got a nice Spectrum Noir pen there, and that might make my sunshine look a bit more glimmery. There we go. There you are. Just makes my sunshine a bit more. Lovely. Sentiment, yes. So I've printed this out on my printer, and this was what inspired me to do this page in the first place, because, like I say, when my daughter picked that word, I was like, ooh, fantastic. Don't think she could have picked a harder one off the list, but there we go. So the sentiment that I found was, I love long walks, especially when they are taken by people who annoy me. And it made me chuckle. So I thought, yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that as the sentiment on my journal page. So I'm actually just looking for my scissors. Because obviously these are a bit long, so I'm going to snip them down. I'm just going to use the scissors to snip them more or less straight, because I'm lazy and I can't be bothered to go over to my cutter thing. Can't think of the word, it's getting late and I'm getting tired. There we go. Now I've had to print these on just regular printer paper because my inkjet printer's not working, so I've had to use the toner printer, which only takes printer paper. It won't accept anything heavier than that. So thinking about where I want to put my sentiment. Maybe something a bit like that. Now I could just ink around the edges of these bits of paper. And what colour would I want to do that in if I were to do that? I asked myself. I might do a little bit of blue actually, because it might just bring some of the blue from the sky down towards the bottom of the page, which might be quite nice. So I've got just the tumbled glass, so it'll be very subtle, and I'm just going around all the edges of the sentiment. And I say that's reasonably tricky because it's just on printer paper. But I found this really awesome font, free font, which looks like old vintage typewriter font, and I love it. So I'm quite into finding sentiments or quotes and things at the moment that are inspiring and printing them off. So I'm going to glue my sentiment on. There we go. And next bit. So just using my regular tacky glue. There we are. And then just that final one. Stuck on like that. And then I think what I will do is just with a little bit of the ink, I'm just going to go around and just edge it a little bit. So with tumbled glass on the blue. And then I think I use Twisted Citron mostly for the fields. So I'm going to start with that, and if it's not dark enough, I'll just go over it with another one. It's just to sort of frame it and try and bring your eyes into the centre, and I might just go around a little bit of the olive as well. There we go. Just contaminated one of my sponges by using it on the wrong ink pad, but never mind. Never mind. Okay, so all that I need to then do is sign it. And put the date on, and today is the 19th. There we go. And that's it. That's my journal page for A, for annoy. That was sort of turned out like I thought it would, a bit, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I've done it now, so I will put it in my journal. So I'm just going to punch the holes. There we go. And then I can add that in, and that will be the first page in my journal. And the way I look at it is, it can only get better, can't it? I think it's because I haven't done an awful lot of mixed media. And normally I like to make my pages quite sort of dimensional, and whereas this is more sort of, well, it is all sort of, you know, flat, and there's more sort of stamping and inking and things. But there you go, that's it. That's my page for A, for annoy, for my hashtag A to Z Art Journal 2020. If you want to have a go as well, please do feel free to join along. Use that hashtag, and then I'll be able to go and have a look too. Leave me a note in the comments if you are going to have a go at it, and I will make sure to go over and check it out. You can use anything, any letter A. You can use one of the prompts, and I will leave the prompts in the description box below the video. You can use the same word as I did, or you can use something entirely different, something that really sparks you and inspires you, whatever you fancy. So the next letter is B. So do get thinking about some B letters that you can leave as suggestions underneath this video. And then I will, again, I'll make a list up, and I will get somebody to pick a number off of the list, and we will do something for the letter B. So we'll see what wild and crazy ideas you can come up with for the letter B. Thank you very much to the person that suggested annoy, or annoyed, I think was the actual word. It took me some thinking about, but yeah, it did turn out roughly how I thought it was going to in the end. I hope you've enjoyed creating with me today, and getting some ideas of how you can use your distress inks and stamps and things, and, you know, things like cutting your stamps up. Don't be afraid to chop into your stamps, you know, particularly if they're just cheap ones that come from magazines. You can always put them back together, you know, you can still use them as the whole stamp. You just sort of lay it all out on your stamp positioning tool or on your stamp block, and it will still stamp out as the whole image. So it never bothers me. I quite often cut my stamps up to make them meet my need. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope to see you all again in the next one. Don't forget to leave me some suggestions as to what I can do for the letter B, and I will see you all again very soon in the next craft video. Bye for now, guys.